in metadata framework, we have two parts, okay? We have two parts, okay? So one is configure object definitions where we actually create the object, okay? Where we create the objects and we can modify the objects, and then includes, okay, this list of objects includes the pre-delivered objects, okay, and also the custom objects which have been created, okay, which are created by us consultant as per the request of the customer. Now this is a demo server, so many custom objects have been created using by people themselves, okay, by people themselves. They have created many custom objects, okay, many custom objects have been created here, okay. So okay, so if you want to actually differentiate, okay, now let's say if you want to differentiate between what are the pre-delivered objects and what are the custom objects, okay, how do you differentiate? Okay, there is a very easy way to differentiate, okay. But before that, I just want to tell you, if you look at this definition, okay, the definition of the object here. So these fields that you see here, these are the fields which kind of are about the object itself, okay, about the object itself in the sense that, like, some of the things, like,
Okay.
we can have the code, okay, we can define the code here, and as in the case of any object in SuccessFactors, there's a code. The code identifies, okay, like as I told you in the case of corporate data model objects, that this is the first field is generally the external code field, okay, and this is what distinguishes the object. From this field is how the system identifies an object, okay. So if we see here, the code is called cust_company and the label is company. So, I can create 10 objects with the same label company, but the only thing is that I need to have different codes here. The codes needs to be different, but I cannot create another object with the same code. The system would not allow. Okay, so that's very important. Okay, so we need to, so the code is always unique for all the objects. There's a unique code. Okay, the label could be same, but the codes are always unique. Okay, and these are the things which actually kind of tells us something about the code. Okay, something about the object. Sorry, about like how we are recording the object and many of the things. Okay, but what data are we storing in the object? Okay, it is defined here because we define the fields here. You see this section is called fields here. Okay, so we define the fields here in which we'll store the data about the object. Okay, or in which we'll store the data for this particular object. Okay, so this is the area where we define the fields. Okay, and this is the area where the object is like we define something about the object itself. Okay, and this is where we define the fields in which the data for the object is stored. Because see, without the fields we cannot store the data. We need fields. Okay, even if it's one field also, we need one field, because otherwise if there is no field, there's no data. Okay, there's no data. Okay. So if you want to capture, you want to store some data for this record, or we want to capture some data for this particular object. Okay, we need at least one field. At least one field, because that one field will capture and a record. Okay, now I'll explain to that later. Okay, how we can do those things. Okay, now coming to the things, how can you differentiate between a custom object and a pre-delivered object? The easiest way is, okay, so as I told you, these are the pre-delivered objects that we have. Okay, we discussed yesterday. So these are the pre-delivered objects that we have. Okay, or like some of the pre-delivered objects. Okay, these are some of the pre-delivered objects in MDF. Okay, okay, in metadata framework, along with many others. Okay, so let's pick up one of them. Okay, let's go to legal entity. Okay, so if I just pick up legal entity, let's go there. Okay, let's pick up legal entity. Okay, so if I go and pick up legal entity, okay, and if I just click on this, okay, so you see the code here is just as legal entity. Okay, but this is a object that I had created. But you see the code. The code has a suffix called cust_. Okay, see the code has a suffix called cust_, but legal entity is a pre-delivered object and it has no suffix. The code is simply called legal entity. So that's the easiest way to identify that this is a pre-delivered object and this is a custom object. Okay, that's the easiest way. And in a pre-delivered object, if you want to see the fields which are custom fields, like or which are pre-delivered fields and which are custom fields. Very easy to identify. Just go and check the field names. Okay, these are all system fields, so don't have to worry about. But these are all field names. See, these are all pre-delivered fields. External code, name, description, okay, effective status, okay, end date, default, pay group, default. But come down, you see this two fields here.
Yes.
They have again the subfield cust underscore attachment, cust underscore state.
Hmm.
So this clearly shows that these two fields are custom fields, which were added later.
Hmm.
Which is added later. But all other fields that you see here, okay, there are some technical fields here, like these are all technical fields, okay. Then you have all this are all technical fields, okay. This is all technical fields. Wherever you see this MDF system something, these are all technical fields. Okay, these are all technical fields, okay. So okay, so and even these are technical fields only. So just it says row ID and internal ID. Although it says this is okay, but this is a technical field. Okay? Although this does not look like a technical field, but this is a technical field. Okay, so okay, don't worry about that. Okay, this is a This is called technical field only. Okay, okay. See, because if you see this is not visible. Okay, so we'll discuss about this later. Okay, but wherever you see this cust underscore, these are custom fields. Okay, but in a custom object, see in a pre-delivered object, this is how we can see that these are custom fields. But in a custom object, all the fields will have that suffix only because that's a custom object. So natural, that's a logical thing that it's a custom object. So all the fields that we create, the technical field names will have always a prefix called cust underscore. Okay, they'll always have a prefix called cust underscore. Okay, so just remember these things, and then I'll come to this now. Okay, okay, I'll now show you how we can actually okay. Okay, let's just see. Let me show you how to create an object. Okay, or I'll show you with one of the objects that I've already created. Then I'll explain these fields. Okay, one by one I'll just explain. Okay, so today only I have created an object called as what was the object that I created? Asset details. Okay, so I've created an object called as asset details. Okay, okay, so asset details I've created. So I've given this code called as cust underscore asset details. Okay, no, so I can give any code. Okay, so I gave a code and the label I have given as asset details. Okay, see, if I don't give a label, okay, if I don't give any label, okay, let's say if I don't give this label now, what happens is that I'll show you. See, if I don't give this label and I save it, if I save it, you will see here when I search for this object here, when I search for this object, if I search for this object, see it is okay. No, I think I've already created this object, so it will not always takes this. But okay, let me show you the new object. Okay, this okay. First, let just 1 second. Let me remove some objects. Okay, there are many objects here which have been created. Okay, and there's a list. There's only a number of objects that we can create. Okay, here association. Just 1 second. Let me remove some objects. Okay, because there is a okay. All right, this should be enough for now. I'll just show you. So let's say if I create a new object, I'll just create. Okay, just give. Let's say test object. I'll just give this name as test object. Okay. And I'll just give something simple. Don't worry about this. We'll discuss this later. Okay. And if I say no, and if I save it, you will see this label is automatically taken as cust_test object. Okay. So if we want to separate, if we want our own label, okay, if our does not want the system to take the label from the code itself, we need to name our object ourselves. Okay, we need to name our object ourselves. Okay, that's why. So in this object that you see here, in this object that I have created, once I have created the once I've given the label, okay, the label is kind of they stay there. Okay, so even if I want to delete it, it will not delete. Okay, so let's no problem, don't worry about that. Okay, so you got what the code is all about. So you can give whatever name you want. The suffix will be taken by the system only. Okay, we don't have to give the suffix. The suffix is taken by the system itself, by itself. Okay, so if you give a, let's say if you give cust_ like this, the actual code will be cust_ this. Okay, that'll be the actual code. You can see it here. See, if I create a new object now, and if I just give another, say, name cust_test object. Okay, if I just give this selection only, no problem. Okay, so none, and if I just save it, okay, if I just save it, you will see the actual code will be, okay, the actual code will be, okay, it did not take the cust_ because that it will not take. Okay, it will not take cust_ because we have already given the cust_ it will not take. So that we cannot suffix an object in the code by itself cust_ because that cust_ is already there. Okay, it's already there. Okay, so we cannot take it. Okay, we cannot. Just one second. पापा कोई माटी कौन आ रहा है okay, so we cannot give that. Okay, now let's come back to our, okay, the second option that you see here is called effective dating. Now what is effective dating? Okay, okay, before I tell you about this, let me just share you the link, okay, for this particular document. This document is for, it's called implementing the metadata framework. It has all the information about the metadata framework, okay, about all this, okay, like about whatever just I showed you here about this, okay, how we can create objects, everything. Okay, it has how can we can create the records for these objects. It has all the details about that. Okay, and then you can use this document to even practice also. Okay, so now let me just share this, okay, in the chat. I'll share this. Okay, implementing metadata framework. So you can just please click on this, okay, and maybe just click now only because if I, once we are finished, you will not be able to access it. So just maybe click on this now, let it open in a tab for you, and then you can, okay, then you can probably bookmark it later. Okay, you can book this later. Okay, now what is effective dating? See, effective dating is basically it, it defines how how relevant is the records that you're creating for this particular object. Okay, so to explain this, okay, we have 4 options here. Okay, we have 4 options. No selection is not an option, but other 4 options are none, basic, multiple changes per day, and then from pay. Okay, we have 4 options here. Okay, now when we select none, it basically means that the records that you are creating for this object are always relevant. Okay, what I mean by that? So let's say if I use this object to capture certain information which is always relevant. So if I keep effective dating as none, the records, the object should be used to capture that kind of information which is always relevant. An example is very simple example is, let's say, date of birth. Okay,
Okay.
date of birth or marriage date, or let's say date of graduation. Okay, because these would not never change. Am I correct? Okay, this will not change. This your date of
Yes.
birth is it's the same today, same tomorrow. It was the same yesterday. It will be the same after 10 years also.
Yes.
Okay, so this
Mm.
that information will never change. It is relevant on each day. Whether it is relevant in the past, it is relevant today, and it is relevant in the future. And this will and the information will never change. Okay, so it's relevant. It is always relevant in the past, present, and future. But the information is the same. It will never change. Okay,
Okay.
got it. So this is this. So if we are using, so if we have effective dating is done, it should mean that we should be very careful. If your customer says that let's keep an effective dating is done, then you should clearly your or the team leader or the project manager, whoever is liaising with the customer, they should clearly tell that if we are keeping effective dating is done, that would mean that this object would only capture that type of information which is relevant all throughout and which will never change. So you're capturing,
Okay.
you can only capture that information which will never
Hmm.
change. Okay, which will never change.
Yeah.
Okay. So example I told you. Okay. So I'll show you how we can. Okay, don't worry about what I'm doing right now. Okay, don't worry about too much what I'll do now. The existing records. Okay, not a problem that I can. The system I'll just show you. Okay, so don't worry about what I've done. What okay. So see, what I've done is that I'm using this particular object or this. Okay, I'm using this particular object. Okay, I'm using this particular object in the profile. Okay,
Okay.
this. Okay, so I've used this particular object in the profile. Okay, that's the server that has been shared by Radical, and this particular thing is not there. Okay, that information is not there. So that's why it does not work. That's why I have to use this particular server. Okay, so see this. So I've used this object here. Okay, so it captures asset details. Now if I just capture, so you see there is no other information. Okay, there are two fields only. There are two fields. So because I have defined two fields. Okay, if you see the object, if I just go to the object, you'll see there are two fields there. Okay, if I go to the object, there are two fields here. You'll see there are two fields that I've defined. Okay, here below. The fields are called asset name. Okay, so I've labeled. Okay, it's called cust underscore asset underscore asset name, but you will see the label I've labeled it as asset name. That's why in the
Yeah.
UI it is coming as asset name. Okay, and
Hmm.
similarly acquired, I've just the field name is called cust underscore AQ date, but in the label I have details label I've changed it to acquired on. Okay, so you see two things. So I can just change it to say Macintosh. Let's say I'll just put some information here. Say Macintosh and I put some date here. Okay, for an example, let's say I put 1st of January. This is okay, this one. See, in this particular scenario, I can actually change this data whenever I want. Okay, but if you think about a real life implementation, we'll be using this. Okay, we'll be using this object with effective dating is done only in the case if this is the only record. Okay,
Okay.
got it. If this is the only record, that is, if this is the only record which will never change and it will never change. Okay, got it. So once the record is entered, that is the only record. Okay, and this record will never change. So that data is the only is always relevant, and this data will never change.
Okay.
Okay, so here
Yeah.
see, this is not the right record, right object to create, but just think about it. Okay, just you can think, you can assume, am I correct? You can
Yeah.
make an assumption here that if, let's say, if this object was created with, okay, where we are capturing, let's say, your maybe your spouse name and your marriage date. Now that is not
Hmm.
going to change. See, you're not going to change.
Yes.
Okay, it might change if
Hmm.
you're married, maybe you're divorced and marrying us, but that will be a separate case. That's a separate case itself. Okay, but in that case, your spouse name is also changing. Am I correct? Okay, but that is a separate scenario. Okay, but or if a good example would be, let's say, your graduation date. Now your graduation date for your a particular graduation will never change. Okay, it'll never change. So if you're capturing, let's say, if you're using this info, we are using an object for you to capture your about your education. When, like, let's say 10th. Okay, when did we 10th? Which year? Which date? If there is a date here particularly, that date will never change. Am I correct? It'll that date, the graduation date will never change. It'll be the same today as well.
Yes.
Even 5 years also, if I'm in the company, that information will never change because that is the
Yes.
only information. That
Hmm.
is the only data that is correct for this. That is correct. There's no other correct data.
Yeah.
The data will never change. That data will never change. So there's no other relevant data. So this is the only relevant data. What I mean. So this is the only relevant data. There's no other relevant data.
Hmm.
Okay. So or there's no other future dated relevant data. For an example, if you think about, let's say, if you capture salary information, the salary information is relevant, but it is only relevant today. It was
Yeah.
okay, but you cannot be sure that after 1 year or maybe after 6 months also that this data will be relevant after 6 months.
Hmm. Got
Am
it.
I correct? That is not correct. That is not that data will change. That will change. But in the case of graduation date or date of birth, as I said, that is the only relevant data for that particular field, and that will never change. Okay, so if we are capturing that kind of information, then we can have an object with the effective dating as none. Okay, got it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if let's say, now let's come to the second option. It's called effective dating as basic. Now, if we say effective dating as basic, okay, if we have effective dating as basic, okay, then what this means is, just do one thing, okay, we'll do one thing. Okay, I'll show you with the once I have actually used this object there. I'll show you by using this object there. You'll not understand like that. So now you see, now once I've changed the date, once I've changed the effective dating to basic, you'll see a difference here. There's another icon here. This okay, you see another clock icon. Now this clock icon is for
Yes.
history. So we can see, okay, you can see there's a history now. This particular object, okay, there's a history. Now why there's a history? Because what I can do is I can now see if you see this date, okay. See, previously there was no date, okay. There was no date for on which day are we creating that particular record. There was no date, there was no field there. Am I correct? There was no field to capture
Hmm.
about which day are we creating that record. So that's why the system has taken a default date, 1st January 1900. See, although we did not give this date, so it says effective as of 1st January 1900. So this record is actually effective from which date? From January 1st, 1900, it is effective. Okay, but now let's say there's a today's date here. Okay, now if I change this, let's say if I change this value to say 2nd January or maybe let's say 15th January. Okay, and I save it. Now if you come down here, you will see there are two records here now. So there's a record for 1st January 1900 and On 4th April, we have made some changes. You can see the change here.
Yes.
1st January has been changed to 15th January. So there's a record here. Okay. Now, what I can do is that let's say I change this to 5th. Okay. Let's say I want a record to be effective tomorrow also. I want to change this to, let's say I change it to 22nd January. Okay. And I save it now. So if I again go back to history, you will see, okay, you will see today we have made some change. And again, tomorrow there's a change which have already been done, but it is visible only tomorrow. See, so if it is effective on this date, this data is effective on which as of tomorrow only. So till today, this data is effective today. But tomorrow, when we come back and check tomorrow, this will be the data that you see there.
Okay.
Okay, this will be the data that you'll see there. Now, why now? But if you see now, if I change that, okay, if I want to change it again, let's say if I just go to 5th, okay, you will see this automatically changes. See, it does not allow me. It says the record is already available on this date. Choose another date. So I can create a future dated record with the basic thing, and I can also create a backdated record, but only one record. One record only as of today. Okay, what I mean is that today I can, if I want to create a future dated record any day, okay, I can do it today, but that will be for only one record. One time, only one time. I cannot do it multiple times.
Okay.
Okay, I cannot do it multiple times. So this, see, in this case, okay, in this case, why we use effective dating as basic? We use effective dating basic in those cases in which the particular object, that particular MDF object is capturing data where the data is relevant, okay, in the past, in the future, and in the present. Okay, and in the present, okay, and in the present, and the data does not change, or data can change on a particular effective date. Okay, so in the case of none, in the case of when we had effective data is none, data is relevant in the past, present, and future, but the data does not change anytime. I told you that data does not change anytime. But in the case of effective dating as basic, okay, when we have effective dating as basic, the data is again relevant in the past, in the future, and in the present. Okay, see, in the case of effective dating is none, we do not have a past, future, and past, present, and future, because there is no date there. We are not able to even capture a date there on which day are we creating that particular record. So there is no concept of past, future, and relevant, past, present, and future in the case of effective dating is none. When the effective dating is done, there is no past, present, and future, because there's no date. Like here, we have some date call on which date this change will happen. We do not have a date column, date field there itself. So that's why the data that is being captured using in that particular object which has effective dating is done, that data should be, that we should only capture that type of data that will remain same. That will never change. Okay, so I'm repeating it again, just remember that. Okay, effective dating none should be used, to create only those type of objects which will record information that will never change. Okay, just remember that. Okay, but in the case of effective dating, when we create objects with effective dating as basic, we are creating those objects for which the information captured in those particular objects is relevant in the past, is relevant in the future, and is also relevant in the future, but till when the information is changed. So what I'm saying that this information is relevant, but till when? Till tomorrow. We can see it from here. Am I correct? This object is effective. This data is effective. Effective means this data is relevant till when? If we see till when? Till tomorrow, because tomorrow there's a new data there. Okay, till tomorrow it is new data there. So a good example for this is we can capture, if we are capturing salary information for a particular employee. Okay, if we're capturing salary information for employees here using MDF objects, okay, we should have effective dating as basic because salary information is relevant. Okay, so I'm saying information is relevant. I'm not saying the data. Just think over. The information is relevant. Okay, in the past, in the future, and also in the present. But sorry, in the past, present, and also in the future. But in the future, the data can change, but it will still be relevant. Okay, so example
Okay.
is this. Okay, example is this is that, see, let's say it's the person is, let's say there's a salary. Okay, the person is making some X salary today. Okay, and we already know the, because by 31st everything is done. Okay, annual performance review is done by March 31st, and the company has decided to give a hike to this person. Not say promotion. I'm just saying they have decided to give a hike to this particular person of 10%. Okay, of 10%, and that hike is effective from 1st of May. Just assume that. Okay, so what as an HRBP you can do is that you can actually enter the changed salary information for this person in that particular object. Okay, for an example, I'll show you. Okay, if you want to actually see, let's go to a person. Okay, and I'll show you. Okay, let's say if you go here, and if you go to compensation information, if I just show you, see, I just go to payroll information. Okay, so forget about it. Okay, so here you see this compensation. Okay, so you see
Yes.
this is okay. So this is effective of 1st of January. Okay, so I can actually, if I come here and if I say change job and compensation info, if I try to change it. Okay, if I try to change it and let's say effective on, I'll say effective 1st July. Okay, effective 1st July. Okay, we'll change this to, can you change it? Not okay, I can change it. Wait. Um, or otherwise, let's just say we'll change some data here. Okay, we'll just change some data here. I just want to change some data here. I'll not do anything. I'll just change some data here. Okay. Okay, save it. Not sure if it's saved. Oh, it's saved. See, so okay, so it says it's saved. Okay, it's saved. So if you go to information now, so you see it changed here, but there's a effective, there's a backdated information. If I come and check here, you see, so this information is still valid. So we cannot say that this information was not valid. Okay, so this
Hmm.
information is still relevant, but it's a past information. But okay, but I think we should not have changed this. Okay, I should have changed, given a different date here. But let's do that. Okay, so that just for your clarity, let's do that. But this is not the right information. Okay, because payroll should not actually, payroll information is different. Okay, it should come separately. But it's because this is not actually, this is not an MDF object. Okay, it's not an MDF object. But it's okay. अरे, 5 seconds. Okay, let's put tomorrow's date here and just change it. Now if I save it, so what you see here, it says a compensation information change will take place on 5th April. Okay, so if you come here and check, so this is what effective dating basically means. So we can see that using effective dating, okay, what you can see effective dating is that we can affect a change in the future also by today. Okay, today itself we can affect a change. We can affect a change in the future. Okay, but with the effective dating basic, okay, this is not an actually an MDF. It is not an MDF object. Okay, but in the case of an MDF object, you can see that what we can do. What MDF object with the MDF object, okay, when we are using an MDF object with effective dating is basic, it basically means that the records, the information data is valid, is relevant yesterday, or is in the past, in the present, and in the future. But as I said, it's relevant till the data is changed. Okay.
Okay.